Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are breaking down the Washington Commanders 2024 NFL Draft. It was a great weekend. It was a lot of fun watching all the teams select their future rookies, but this will be just the Commander selections here. So before we break down their selections, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also tackle the bell to get notified when new Commanders videos come out. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the start of the 2024 NFL season, so any help now is greatly appreciated. Ryan, let's pull up the slide here. So starting off already, Jayden Daniels. We knew it was going to be a quarterback. We knew it wasn't going to be Caleb Williams. It was just going to depend really on which flavor that they liked the most. And there are some reports right before the draft that the Jayden Daniels Washington Commanders visit didn't go that great. Apparently, it went well enough to where the Commanders and Jayden Daniels were excited to work with one another. So I really like this fit. I also think as
Yeah.
well just his dual threat capabilities. He is a little bit on the older side. By that, I mean he was 23 or 24, something like that.
Yeah, he'll
So
be 24 in December.
so he'll be 23 to start the season. And you know what? It's for a running back, I think that's a not, but for a quarterback, I think that's more seasoned experience, and we've seen him develop every single year. And the
Yeah.
year that he had at LSU, I think is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's Heisman. It was Heisman worthy, and also the number two overall pick worthy as well.
Yeah, and I think you look at what Cliff Kingsbury and this Washington Commanders offense are going to want to do. Cliff Kingsbury, they were 23rd or lower in offensive plays run where passes were thrown outside or were thrown over the middle. So they don't throw it over the middle a ton. They like to push the ball outside the numbers and really kind of spread out the field. And you look, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, both of those guys are going to be winning outside the numbers. And so I think that's just a really good fit, especially Jayden Daniels only threw over the middle of the field 16% of the time in college. So it's not like he like this. It's not like he can't do it, but he definitely wins outside the numbers. And then I think you look at his running ability, and he definitely has that Lamar effect. I don't want to say it's Lamar like because he's much more of a vertical runner. He's not the elusive, shifty guy that Lamar is, but
Mm-hmm.
he is definitely much more of a vertical runner with some elite speed at the quarterback position. So I think
Yeah.
this is a really, really good fit here. And yeah, it's kind of hard to go wrong. I mean, all three of these guys at the top were some of the best quarterback prospects we've seen in a very long time. So
Yeah, I think he's coming into a good situation. Offensive line can maybe still be improved a little bit, but they have addressed it a lot in the offseason, get a more veteran offensive line in front of him. But he's going to
yeah,
have Boston Eckler coming in as well. He's coming into the receiving room with Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and also too they got Zach Ertz as well in the free agency market. So still just veteran experience, and then they got them a couple other pass catchers as well that we'll address here in a second. So I think he's coming into a much better situation than it was last year.
oh,
And so he's got a good time to succeed. And I think then also to playing for a guy like Dan Quinn, I think it's going to be a lot of fun for everybody. But let's move on
definitely.
now. They second round pick end up going with Jayden Newton. And Ryan, the more and more I thought about this, because we talked about it when it's selected, like they have Deron Payne, they have Jonathan Allen there, but I still think a lot of teams, especially too, there's kind of this run on defensive tackles.
Yeah,
A lot of teams, I guess, outside of Tennessee Titans, who went with the 360-pounder guy, are going for like the lighter, shiftier, defensive tackles, like guys that are just under 300 pounds or sub 300 pounds. So Jayden Newton's
yeah,
304, but very quick, very shifty. And I think a lot of teams are almost like switching to this like 3-4 type set where you kind of have just essentially three. You have a big
that
defensive
is.
tackle, but then just like two smaller defensive tackles, defensive end esque type guys. I think he's going to provide
Yeah,
great depth. I think he's going to be able to come in and bring in fresh legs because Jayden Newton at the start of the 2023 season, people were projecting him as a potential top 10 pick. So there's still a
yeah.
lot of talent there. I think it just goes to show how great this draft class is.
Yeah, no, and for me, I think one, Dan Quinn does kind of run that 3-4 style defense. And two, Jayden Newton, I mean, is a very versatile defensive line player because we were a little bit like, I mean, he's like, he definitely, in my opinion, was one of the best players available. It's just like they already have, like you said, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne. So how is he going to get on the field? And I think he took snaps at edge rusher. I'm not saying he's going to be an edge rusher, but I think that just speaks to the kind of athlete that he is. In if you're going to have three down defensive tackles with standing up outside linebacker. I think he definitely could be that like 3-4 end, right? Where
Yeah.
he's not really a defensive end, but in that scenario, he would be. So I I do like this pick. Good value. I usually had him going in the back end of the first round, so getting him about 8 to 10 picks after I think he should have gone is good value.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and so it's gonna be interesting to see because we were saying this in some of our other draft videos as well as like we've seen the evolution of the edge rusher kind of transition into now like the modern day outside linebacker, like the Will Anderson, for example, that 250 pound super explosive guy. And now it's almost like we're seeing like a maybe the beginning of a transition of like what the modern day defensive tackle is, which is maybe might have been some more of the what a traditional edge rusher was back in the day. Jersey maybe needs to lose a couple pounds to become that like 280 guy, but it seems like everybody wants that super explosive, quick defensive tackle, and that's what Jersey Newton brings as well. So still sitting at around 300, but I think he's going to be a great fit overall to this Commanders team that's trying to revamp that defensive front from what it was a couple years ago when they made a playoff run.
Yeah.
So
So
they end up trading back because they had the 40th pick as well, but they traded with the Eagles and picked up 2 second rounders, 50th and the 53rd pick. I really like both of these picks as well. Mike Sanders-Trill and then Ben Sinnott or Ben Sinnott. I
Senate.
forgot. Senate, perfect. It is not pronounced that way. That was a dumb joke. Anyways, but I like Mike Sandstrill, great veteran president. I think he also provides some versatility as well. I could potentially shift over into the safety position, but from all reports, though, at Michigan, he was a great locker room leader, a voice for that defense as well, making sure everybody's in their spots. And then Ben Sinnott, he's not gonna be the best blocking tight end. But we're seeing a lot of these teams now. They want that Sam Laporta, Travis Kelsey esque type tight end, the guy that you could essentially line up as a slot receiver and have him move around. And he had a great career at Kansas State. And I think he's going to come in someone that they can really rely on
Yeah.
over the next couple of years. They did get Zach Ertz as well, who's had a great career also. I think he's going to be able to learn from him this year before I officially taking over the reins as their stud tight end. But to your point, though, what you mentioned earlier about the Commanders and with Jayden Daniels is they didn't really go over the middle too much, and I think this allows he's that guy. I think they can go. He can be that middle of the field because Terry McLaurin,
Yeah.
John Dodson, a little bit more on the smaller side, but super effective receivers in their own right. But they might be a little bit more on the outside or work on the slot. Working outside the numbers. I think this helps bring in that middle of the field for them.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm actually not a huge fan of the Ben Sinnott pick. For me, he was a day 3 prospect because he is, slightly undersized. He's a good athlete, but, like, there's good athletes all over the place in the draft in the NFL, so, I do really like the Mike Sanders still pick. He's a very versatile guy, can kinda play anywhere, play safety, play nickel. He could not really play outside, but in a pinch, he probably could as well, so,
Yeah.
good depth. I do see the reasoning behind the Ben Sinnott pick. I just had Jatavian Sanders up
Uh,
here. I guess the rest of the NFL didn't though,
well,
because he went all the way to on day 4.
so
Or,
if Jatavian Sanders was taken a couple picks later, I would be more critical of it.
yeah,
But he fell for a reason. I'm really looking forward to kind of why he did fall all the way to the 4th round. But yeah, if he was taken 60th, I would agree with you. I'd be like, he had Jatavian Sanders there, and so unless
yeah,
they saw something. Uh, but with here though, Sanders fell another 50 picks. So he went through every single NFL team as well, and they all passed on him. And so I think that there was a reason. And then when I go and look at the stats, it's kind of what they're kind of looking for when it comes to like the pass catching tight end. I
mhm,
think he does kind of fit the bill. But to your point, though, he is maybe a little bit undersized. There's maybe still some develop. There's definitely some development that needs to come with his performance. I think that it's something that'll just come over time. But I think prospect
yeah.
wise, I think he could be very good.
Yeah. So, moving on, Brandon Coleman, the offensive tackle from TCU, could potentially kick into guard as well. It will just kind of have to see how he develops at the NFL level. But a really raw tackle, great physical traits, but definitely needs some development. But this was, I believe, he was like the 13th tackle or 14th tackle taken off the board here, and so I felt it was a little high. But with that many tackles going off the board, you want to go ahead and just snag the guy that you like. You can kind of see like the Patriots, I think, did a very similar thing right after this with Caden Wallace. So
yeah. No, it is similar to the Patriots as well. You got your rookie quarterback, and then you've got some rookie weapon for him as well, and you're about to get another one here in the Commanders. So I think that this was a great selection. Get the guy that best fits your needs overall, especially too if he's probably not going to be there by your next pick, which is going to be pick 100. And so maybe I think this on some people's boards maybe a little high, but once again, they know the system that they want to run. That they know their the fit. So I'm going to trust them that they like Brandon Coleman. No, obviously they like Brandon Coleman enough to select him. But I think addressing that interior of the offensive line, just keep improving that offensive line because the Commanders had one of the weakest ones last year. I think it's a good option here. So you get your rookie quarterback, then you get like a rookie tight end to help out over the middle that you can develop. Now they move to their next third round pick as well, the last pick in the third round. Get Luke McCaffrey here, receiver out of Rice, brother of Christian McCaffrey as well. Maybe probably a little bit higher than on some people's boards, but I still think I think he's going to be a good complement to what they have in that receiving room as of right now, even though with Jahan Dotson and then Terry McLaurin as well. So it'll be fun to kind of watch him work, see how he develops overall. And it'll be fun then too when they play the 49ers and then the McCaffrey brothers can compete against one another.
yeah, this is another pick that I don't necessarily love. Especially you had guys like Troy Franklin and Javon Baker still on the board there. And I just felt those guys had a better NFL skill set. McCaffrey is a little wiry on frame. He played at Rice, so coming from a lower level of competition. And I like the traits there, but I just think that there's some more development that is needed because he's only been playing the wide receiver position for a couple years, and so I felt he was definitely a little bit more of a developmental guy that you could snag later on, like in the middle of day three. But again, he is 6'2", 200, has good measurables, good bloodlines there. Um, just I think a little high for somebody, and this is also a compensatory pick, so you'd had literally had to do nothing to get this pick. So,
Yeah. Besides lose a player,
well, true,
and
yeah,
but I can see your point. I probably would have gone with Troy Franklin because I think that he's going to be just as much of a compliment as well, and there's a little bit more proven on tape performance. But once again, similar, I think, like to the Brandon Coleman as well. It is like that's the reason why they selected him. And also, too, you see how good he is as a receiver right now, and he's only been doing it for a couple of years. So if you go and develop him over a year, just to keep refining that route running capabilities, who knows what he could turn into, And
yeah,
so it'll be fun to watch them develop here. Let's move on. They had just a couple of day three picks. They were very active in the first round here, but going with Jordan McGee, linebacker out of Temple, and then Dominique Hampton out of Washington, and then wrapping up with Javante John Baptiste, edge rusher out
Jean
of John.
Javante Jean Baptiste.
Oh, okay, my bad. Sorry, but
You're good.
addressing all levels of the defense here, and so just I like the overall selection. Then I think they've just got good players as well, and just get good depth, really at
Yeah.
all levels.
Yeah, that for me, these are just some depth pieces. But Tyler and I, we graded all of these drafts that we are reviewing, and so let's go ahead and get into our grades. We both gave them an A minus. To me, this draft was very similar to what the Patriots did, who we also gave an A minus. Went out, identified your quarterback in the top three. Go out and get a playmaker for him in Ben Sinnott and Luke McCaffrey. While I was a little critical of those picks, you still went out and got those guys to kind of be the maybe third and fourth or fourth and fifth option in your offense for your young quarterback. You go protect them with Brandon Coleman while adding some depth on the defensive side of the ball with Mike Sanders still and Jersey Newton. And I just that's kind of hard to be mad at and not give a good grade.
Yeah, no, I like the overall strategy that they had. I thought they got good players at each level. I think one thing too, unlike the Patriots, but the Commanders didn't really have a receiver issue. You still
Yeah,
want to go and get some more good playmakers as well. Even
yeah,
if we go through there after like the offseason going into the draft, Terry McLaurin, Jahad Dotson, Zach Ertz at the tight end. You're going to have Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler in the backfield as well. That right there is already a pretty solid skill position player room. And there might even be a
Yeah.
couple other guys. I feel like there's one other guy that I'm missing because I know Curtis Samuel left, but who was the other guy? There was one other guy I thought.
They have like Diami Brown.
That's it. Yeah. So that wasn't a major concern for the Commanders, unlike your Patriots, who now they needed receiver first, and so they go and get Jalen Polk in the early second round. You needed to go and get him, a guy that has a lot more experience as receiver. So here are the Commanders, though. I thought getting Jersey Newton, I think, was a great selection, even if it was maybe a little redundant with what they got. It was still, I think, good talent to bring in now, but also to prepare for the future when you do move on from Deron Payne or Jonathan Allen. And so, in general, yeah, one of my more favorite drafts, I would say, of the 2024 NFL draft.
Yeah, no, I thought they added a lot of good young players, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of with Dan Quinn and Adam Peters and Cliff Kingsbury what this team can turn into in the ever so competitive NFC East. But let's go ahead and wrap it up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of the Washington Commanders draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you have done differently? And on that, we'll see you guys next time.